a little bit shorter than he is. All right, good morning. I'm Catherine Underhill from Chevron Technology Ventures based here in Houston, Texas. I'll be facilitating this 30-minute panel session with my colleagues to share how Chevron is enhancing worker safety using a personalized, real-time hydration technology from Epicore Biosystems called Connected Hydration. This wearable technology reduces exposure to heat illness and safety incidents. The intended workers for this technology have jobs that require high physical activity over long durations of time in hot environments, and they're typically wearing personal protective equipment. Can you say really hot? We call these workers industrial athletes, as proper hydration is a prerequisite to peak physical and cognitive performance on the job. Let me start by describing the three components for this solution. The first is the wearable sensor. The worker places this on their upper arm, and it measures sweat volume, sweat contents, skin temperature, and body movement. It also provides on-body haptics, which is basically vibrations, that tells the worker when they're either down a bottle of water and need to drink, or when their sweat loss is equal to 2% of their body weight, which is when cognitive reduction begins. This wearable sensor has two pieces: a one-time use patch, which adheres to their skin, and a multi-use 1,000 battery hour module that snaps into that patch. The wearable sensor is Class 1 Division 2 certified. You'll hear us call it C1D2. And this is a safety standard that says that this can be used in a potentially explosive environment, of which we have many in the oil and gas industry. The second component to this solution is the mobile app. This provides the worker with real-time information about their sweat and electrolyte loss and intake recommendations, plus daily hydration summary tracking. This app is available for iPhones and Androids. And finally, the third component is the Enterprise Cloud Dashboard, which provides group anonymized data to select health and safety personnel, where they're able to proactively monitor and message their workers about their hydration behavior. You can access the dashboard from any web browser. Chevron started their journey with this technology in 2020, when it was only a wearable sensor and didn't have the other two elements to it. We tested it over several years, and the pilots targeted workers in hot environments where their wear duration increased year over year from 1 day of work, and by the end they were wearing it for a month of work. We tested it on all types of workers: offshore workers in the Gulf, onshore workers throughout Texas and Central California, refinery workers in Mississippi, firefighters, you see one of those here on the slide in front of you, and confined space workers. After 4 summers of iteration, encompassing feedback from over 200 industrial athletes and 1,400 days of work, which is the largest sweat pilot in the oil and gas sector to date, Chevron deemed this technology ready for deployment in 2024. So when you walk out of here today, there are 4 things that we want you to take with you. 1, Chevron saw an opportunity to enhance current heat illness prevention protocols. Number 2, this solution provides data that every worker has a unique experience with heat. 3rd, the solution meets very difficult compliance requirements in the areas of data privacy. The wearable sensor is C1D2 compliant, and Epicore Biosystems has their SOC 2 Type 2 attestation, which means a third-party vendor has assessed them over a period of time to confirm their operational controls are appropriate in the areas of safety, security, confidentiality, and privacy. And finally, Chevron found that it was relatively easy to incorporate this technology into our existing heat management processes. So let's dig into this connected worker use case with the 3 folks on stage with me. All right, to get us started, I'd like to ask each of you if you could introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Louisa Reed. I work for Chevron Technology Ventures as a digital technology scout here in Houston, Texas. I have over 40 years of experience with Chevron, starting out in operations and then moving into more of a digital focus for the remainder of my career, I hope. And my role in the project was to plan and oversee the execution of all the pilots that we ran between 2020 to 2023. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Hi, my name is Mike Wasik, and I'm an occupational health programs advisor with Chevron, working in our health and medical department, and I'm based here in Houston. My role with regards to this solution was overseeing the on-site pilots. As Catherine mentioned, we did a variety of different pilots throughout Texas, Mississippi, the Gulf, as well as the TEEPS Fire Training Center over at Texas A&M.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Santiago Cepeda. I'm the Health, Safety, and Environmental Manager in Bakersfield, California, 17 years with Chevron. My main role in this deployment was basically oversee what we implemented the technology in Central California area, 30 rigs over there.
Great, thank you. Let's start with you, Louisa. Can you share with us how this hydration journey started? What got CTV involved in this?
That's a great question and a little bit of a fun story, if I can pull it off. So the health and safety group came to me looking for help in scouting a technology that would help enhance their current heat protocols. And they actually brought an article from a medical journal, and it was a picture of a Band-Aid that was a health sensor. So then I got looking at other opportunities where we might find a solution to help out the health and safety group. And that led me to Northwestern University, where I met with several companies that had health sensors. And that's where I had the opportunity to meet Epicore. And based on that trip and some additional scouting, Epicore was the closest to what we were looking for, and it has been a great partnership from that point on.
Great, thank you. Mike, you were heavily involved in these pilots that we did over the course of 4 years. Can you share with us how this solution benefits workers, and also how does it benefit personnel who are overseeing these workers in the field?
Okay, thanks, Catherine. Let me address the workers first. When we first started the pilots, the quote-unquote patches that we used, we did not get real-time information as we do now. So we had to send that information to Epicore, and then the following day we would actually get the data. Well, what we found out is, even though the workers knew they were in a pilot, we were tracking the amount of fluids they were taking, both water as well as electrolytes. Over 60% of those people underhydrated. So that was a key learning, because those people actually know that they were in a pilot. What about the people that were not in a pilot elsewhere? You know, are they possibly not hydrating appropriately? So now with the real-time app, if someone loses 20 ounces of water through sweat and they lose 235 milligrams of sodium, if they drink a 20-ounce Gatorade, they have now met that loss. And so they know exactly what they need to replace based on the application. And I'll use a real-life situation on kind of how the solution not only benefits the people using it, but also those around them. As was mentioned, we did some work with the firefighters at the training center. And the year that we did the pilot, the firefighters were conducting their normal training at the same time of year in similar weather conditions. But they nearly doubled the amount of fluids that they purchased compared to other years. And what I want to do is give a quote from our fire chief who oversees that training. The consumption of water and Gatorade nearly doubled. The patch encouraged individuals to be more attuned with their bodily requirements. Several team members have reported that, despite not feeling thirsty, they continue to utilize hydration resources due to the influence of the patch. So it was influencing not only the people wearing it, but those around them. And then with regards to field safety personnel, as Catherine mentioned, the Enterprise Cloud Database is a great resource for these people that has group anonymized data. So we are protecting the privacy of the individuals, only looking at group data in specific areas. So that person can look at it and see, wow, there are a lot of alarms going off in this area. Or this is a group that is not meeting the amount of fluids that they lost. They can look at that data, and maybe there's an educational opportunity with regards to proper rehydration. Maybe there is a barrier for them to getting the fluids that they need to get. So it gives us another opportunity to try to help minimize the risk of heat illness.
Great, thank you so much. Louisa, since this solution collects sweat, were there any remarks from workers over concerns about Big Brother seeing their data?
There were. I know that when we first started working with health and safety, we had envisioned this grand dashboard wherever we were working, and we had each individual's identified, and we're tracking any alarms. Well, we quickly found out that there were concerns, and then we dug into it a little bit more, working with our human resources and our data privacy groups. And indeed, sweat is personal data. So then we dug into the requirements that we needed to have in place to make sure their data was secure, and make sure that the employee was comfortable that they knew their data would be safe. Data privacy, information technology groups, they helped us review and work with Epicore to ensure that their platform was secure. And in addition to that, that they had the proper certifications like SOC 2 Type 2 in place. So we were comfortable that the platform was secure. But then we went a step further and gave the workers the choice on how their data was shared. There's 3 options. All of these options are managed in the app, and they can be changed at any time should the worker decide to make that they don't want to share their data anymore. So the first option is they don't share it with anybody. And if they have the information for the day on the app, they know how they need to rehydrate. But the disadvantage of that is they do not have the historical information so that they can learn how best to keep themselves healthy. So there is a disadvantage, but they still get the immediate advantage of knowing how to hydrate for the day. The second option is they can share their information with Epicore. That data is de-identified, and via the app, they will be able to not only manage their daily hydration, but also understand historically what their hydration has been and what that impact has been. And then the third option is they can share the data with both Epicore and Chevron. Chevron can only see the data group anonymized. And the advantage there is for our HSE personnel like Santiago, because we have grouped these geographically, we can see if there's too many alarms, maybe hydration's not happening, we have no idea who it is, but hey, maybe we need to go have a tailgate meeting, make sure they have everything they need to be safe. And so our HSE on-site personnel can help manage the safety of our employees and our contractors as well.
Very good. Mike, can you share with us, we had 4 summers of pilots. What were the key learnings that we got from those pilots?
Well, I feel we had 2 key learnings. One was with regards to the importance of the app, and then the other was with regards to the importance of providing education prior to launching the app. So first, with regards to the app. Now, prior to having this, we followed OSHA guidance, 8 ounces of water every 15 to 20 minutes, and then if you were in a hot environment working in the heat, you have access to electrolytes. Well, during one of our pilots, you can see where maybe sometimes this guidance may, have an impact. So during our pilot up in northern Texas, we had a person who worked as a rail car cleaner. So he would don his Tyvek suit, go inside the rail car, do some cleaning, he'd pop out, get something to drink, go back in, and do the cleaning. So we introduced the patch. Following day, we came to follow up to see how things went. And he said, I was at dinner last night with my wife. It was our wedding anniversary, and I cramped up at the restaurant. And so we said, do you mind if we look at the data from your app? He said, sure. So we looked at it, and the amount of fluid that he lost, he matched exactly. But he lost nearly 3,000 milligrams of sodium, which means he was a very salty sweater. He did not replace any electrolytes. So he said, and we asked him, do you cramp frequently? He goes, this happens quite regularly. So we said, if you feel comfortable with what the app is recommending, will you follow the amount of water as well as the electrolytes for the rest of the pilot? And he agreed. At the end of the pilot, no more cramping. So access to electrolytes is different than ingesting electrolytes, and he needed to have those electrolytes. And then with regards to education, it's important. I don't feel that just putting a patch on your arm and telling everyone, okay, wear the patch and you're going to avoid heat illness. That's not the solution. You need to incorporate that education aspect, not only on how to use the patch in the application, but also with regards to proper rehydration, signs and symptoms of heat illness, so they can recognize it in others when they're around. And also providing them with strategies for pre-work, during work, and post-work hydration.
Great, thank you, Mike, it was very helpful. Let's switch our focus. Now we're going to put Santiago in the hot seat. Let's talk a little bit about deploying the solution. The testing's been done. We've heard feedback from our field workers. It's been incorporated into the solution, and now we're ready to make it available on a voluntary basis to our workers. How did you, Santiago, justify deploying this solution in Bakersfield, California? Because there is a cost to it, and we know that the field is super sensitive to anything that costs money. So how did you pull that off?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. And this is interesting because despite you have a wonderful technology, you know, organization, they can put some resistance to implement that. And this is a real case that we have, because when we observed data in 2023 pilot, we observed and we put those devices and the patches in the arm of 3 different groups of workers: field workers, rig workers, facilities workers, and operators. And we observed one single group that was, you know, the most group that was more exposed to dehydration. And that's interesting because, you know, attaching those concepts for not heat illness itself. So, you know, we long time overpassed that heat illness prevention. So it's about cognitive decline. So we start to connect with that high risk group because they were like they were losing more sweat than any other groups, and that was important. So we said, okay, after we lose body fluid by 2%, we start the cognitive decline. So this could impact the safety performance. So we crossed the incidence in summer months, starting with 80 Fahrenheit. And when we put the curve of the summer months of the temperature, we observed more than 80% of the recordable incident happen in summer months. So we connect the human behavior in the work environment in summer months, high outdoor temperature, with incidents, and we got a case. So we went and we got that hypothesis is, hey, we were sustaining those amount of events, in recordable events in summer months because people are really dehydrated and they are not able to drink properly or replenish the fluids. So when that was the primary justification. So improved safety performance, that was the first attempt with the organization. And basically we aiming to mitigate the impact of outdoor temperature in the crew members' cognitive response. That was the hypothesis that we managed.
Okay, so you were able to kind of articulate your hypothesis and back it up with data that you got from prior summers and from the prior pilot in your location. So you got agreement. Let's buy a few of these and give it a try. What was the effort that was involved in deploying this technology?
Yeah, thank you. And you know, in the graph you see in the high alarms and lower alarms, it's an interesting graph because you see at the beginning of the technology, so they observe more alarms, so dehydration alarms, but at the end, despite the same outdoor temperature, you observe lower level of alarms. So it indicates that people's behavior is improving in rehydration. This is interesting. They're learning from the technology. So the effort, basically, we put it like in 3 categories. So training, as Mike mentioned, training is paramount. How the information that is provided through the technology is given you and is given to the organization. The other is the training of people of how to use the technology. So we train in the third rig 71 people, rig workers, and how they're going to use the patch, how they're going to use the technology. And we put it a fit for purpose procedure. We call, it's a kind of a stop work authority concept that you have been here in the industry. We call them stop water authority. So it's giving the moment to rehydrate, because we observe the resistance of people. I mean, excuse me, in the operations, they were resistant to use technology because, hey, I'm not gonna wear the patch because I'm a tough guy, rig worker. I'm not gonna let this technology use it in my rig because you're gonna lose my time. And we found that kind of resistance. But when we put the data, we put the information there, and we put the procedure and the ground rules, we align everyone. So another was important, aligning the organization from top down, the manager, superintendent, supervisors, field workers, all around the same goal. That was paramount. That was, make the difference, because everyone talking about the replenishing fluids, avoid cramping, sleep better, be better performer. And we start to see something that is happening in the previous years, we didn't have this year, is, oh man, it's like we're not visiting people at the hospital. We're not running into an incident investigation or reporting. This is a kind of game changer, this time in the comparison with the previous years. So by using this technology in a context of a proper program in Central California.
Very good, thank you. All right, so let's jump to, you've got it deployed, you've got this culture that's wrapped around how you're going to use the technology, using stop water authority. You've run it through a summer, you've used it for a summer. What were some of your key learnings from your first summer of using this technology?
Yeah, I love this slide because it's basically compiling what we learned, because the learnings were exactly at the end of this deployment, because we got a bunch of non-believers over there, but when we start to see results on what is important to use proper technology for protect people's well-being, and because we believe in saving lives. So that was the important part, to have the organization to run with the technology, and basically by using interesting concept like stop water authority, we named the guys wearing the patches like the hydration heroes. This is part of the show. And we create a culture, because when you create a culture, you're gonna have outstanding results, and that's important. All the organization around the same culture, and the behavior improvement, enhanced physiological conditions. So they told us, hey, Santiago, this is the first time that I, do not experience cramps, have better sleep, I feel better, when I get home. They start to change the behavior in families. We create a task group during the weekend to remind them to replenish fluids starting on the weekend. They decrease caffeine intake, they decrease sugar, they decrease alcohol. That was interesting, people's health improved. So we saw in the results, but at the end, this is important that it's self-eloquent. It's no recordable incidents, no serious injuries or fatality for the first time in the last 4 years and behind. And that called the attention of other different key stakeholders. They want that. So and basically this is the huge learning here is we can use technology if we implement it in a good heat management program, umbrella, and you align the entire organization around the objective, you're gonna have outstanding results.
Excellent. That's pretty amazing. Those are great results, right? You see it in the data. And I know that what you told me is that you're actually going to be expanding your deployment in Central California based on this last summer's worth of results. And, you know, we've got increased deployments going on throughout. Chevron will be going to Thailand this year, Mid-Continent Business Unit, and numerous other places based on the huge success that we had with this deployment in San Joaquin Valley. So it's in the numbers. So when it comes to safety, I think the way I would wrap this up is to say that prevention of incidents is our top priority. And that's what this technology allows us to do. It's to prevent those incidents and to be proactive. So with that, I don't see any questions, and we're out of time, but we'll be around. After this, we're happy to talk with folks about our experience with this. It's been a fabulous experience, great partnership with Epicore. They've got a booth here, and I encourage you guys to check this out. It's a one-of-a-kind technology. So if we could thank our panelists for their effort, I'd appreciate that.